we've got some really interesting people right in front of us. Great opportunity to learn, whether you're an influencer wanting to know how to work with brands of this caliber, or whether you're a brand that aspires to be as innovative as these people on this stage. I think let's start with probably the biggest business on the stage, Samsung over here, biggest guy on stage as well, Volkan. Now, the thing I think about when I see a lot of influencer content and influencer marketing is that over the past 4 or 5 years, there's been a lot of, merging into one homogenous blob of influence. Yeah. Like, what does it what does it take to make me push myself further down the customer decision journey? And like, how do you differentiate at Samsung to make that experience different?
Yeah. So as a Samsung, as you said, Chris, thank you so much. We are hugely investing to the influencer marketing especially. But influencer marketing is transforming, as all the world is transforming, because influencer marketing is not only the brand equity or the brand reputation, or including this, it's also together with the data-driven. So if you are evaluating and reporting and optimizing your data very well, so you can expose your own marketing communication through influencers very efficient way. So Samsung is going to be making the differentiation point of view of influencer marketing communication is the data-driven. So they're helping us to drive our performance also, including with our brand reputation.
And so let's unpackage that a little bit. Data-driven, we hear that a lot in this room. Yeah. What does data-driven mean? What kind of KPIs are we looking at? And is it impressions? Is it the more old school metrics? Are we looking at the share of voice and so on? What are we looking at?
Actually, we are looking for the real metrics. Okay. So as all the marketers know that we have the 4 steps of the customer decision journey: awareness, concentration, and purchase intent, and the retention. So every touch points and lines of the marketing that we are driving, that we are looking for the different KPIs and the different KPI sets. So in the awareness part, yes, you said the impression and the reach is very important, but in the purchase intent, you have to convert your customers to directly through your own offline and online the platforms, the sales platforms. So we are tracking all the steps with our own global partners, such as Facebook and Google internal tools to drive the best influencer marketing, influensive marketing through these guys. So the key metrics that we are driving is not only the impressions, we are also looking for the loyalty side, how we can increase the retention of the rate for the Samsung.
And quickly before we move on, how do you measure that loyalty intent? How do you measure that retention?
Actually, we have the own loyalty program, Samsung members. So if the people just buy the Samsung products, so you can be a member of this program. So we can follow up all these guys through our data platforms and the loyalty program.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And so one thing that I'm curious about, I'm sure a lot of people in here, is MasterCard. It's not something that I would associate with an influencer program so much, because people are quite private about their finances. Maybe some influencers not so much, but people like myself, we like to keep those decisions to ourselves. You're operating in a world where, we've got Monzo, Revolut, and N26 are coming in with these innovative fintech solutions. How are you differentiating your influencer marketing in that sector?
First of all, let me start with saying we're a technology company,
yeah.
Not a finance company. But we are a technology company that happens to be in payment sector. Yeah. And we are mostly known for our beloved prices campaign that's been going on for 20 years now, more than 20 years. Over 110 countries and translated into more than 50 languages. So we are more than a payments provider, I should say. But obviously, as the times change, we have changed as a company, our consumers have changed, and the expectation from us has changed as well. So our campaign has evolved. And from one-way communication, from just like observing priceless moments that you may have as a consumer, I think that's what you're also referring to, we have evolved into making those priceless experiences with you. So enabling you to have your own priceless journeys and experiences, start your something priceless, whatever that would be. So for us, influencer marketing comes in that part, really. Because rather than this static, one-way just like one way of communicating. We want to enable you. We want to create connections for you so that you have your experiences, and it could be only for you. So here comes the social media and the influencers, because we hope and believe they help us to create these connections, trusted connections. So it will be instrumental from now on even more. I mean, for the past few years, we've been doing some work with influencers, but we are not like totally abandoning the traditional mix, of course. But we believe we can, start a new journey in that sense.
This journey that you're speaking of, what does that look like in 5 years' time? What is the future of your influencer program? How can the influencers in this room future-proof their offering? And how can the brands learn from your direction?
For us, the influencers gives us some unique moments. I told you, it's about connections. So it's different than the traditional media. But I really have to say, we will keep the traditional mix in the place. So we won't be totally abandoning it. We still need commercials to convey some of our messages. But to bring authenticity, to bring some unique content, in our case that's priceless, of course, to have some priceless contents, we will continue to do so. But for us, influencing or influencers are not about the numbers game. So microblogging may become even more important. The genuine content, the ability to influence influencers, even if you don't have like millions that follow you. So that will be key. So we think the trend will move more to quality over quantity. And really, I personally also see microblogging as a good opportunity for all of us.
Excellent. And from a spend perspective, are we expecting to increase spend on influencers over the next 5 years, or is it going to plateau? What does that look like?
Naturally, for me, it will increase.
Yeah.
Because this is where our consumers want to be.
Yeah.
I mean, that's for sure. Many of our consumers have ad blockers, so in order to avoid that, obviously, we have to find new creative, smart ways, priceless ways to overcome those barriers. And influencers, if they can provide unique content, if they're like genuine, authentic, I think they will really have more piece of the cake. I mean, that's like no-brainers at a
Listen to that, guys. You're the answer to ad blockers. You're the ad smashers. You can take that one on with it, But speaking of priceless moments, I think that takes us really nicely onto the hotel experience. I've been fortunate enough to experience the Four Seasons. INFLOW have put us up in the Fairmont Hotel. Two incredible venues that, everything's Instagrammable, everything's aesthetic, everything's a priceless moment that you want to share with your friends and your connections. Omar, can you tell us a bit about how you work in the hotel industry to make the most of those moments and get the best, visibility on your venues?
Yes, actually, a few years ago, it was all inviting the bloggers, and they were basically setting up some shots of a typical breakfast table with a coffee and a croissant and a fruit plate, and then try to get people enjoy that all around the world. I think the social media is, for me, is transferring emotions on the eye of the blogger. And in that aspect, most bloggers, when they come to the hotels, they don't even know what the hotel services are. It has to look natural, because that's the authenticity of the experience. But I think hoteliers, whatever brands are, they have to create this stage experiences to make sure that what is happening, whether it's a cooking school, whether it's a spa treatments, whatever the activities in the hotel, so they need to prepare in advance, not just let the blogger, hey, here's the hotel, experience it on your eyes, but give something directly.
There's an education piece there.
It is.
So
And also, the world has changed. Hotels are important, but destinations are more important. So what's happening is how that hotel or the blogger sees that destination, it actually touches to the consumer more, the potential guest more. So if I'm going to go to Paris, I want to, if I'm expecting something from Paris, but I want to also learn about, not only about hotel, how would my experience turn out to be in the eye of that hotel and the blogger? So it's a little bit more complex than just taking a photo of the room or the restaurant or the buffet. It is becoming much more complex.
And so do you ever collaborate with the kind of cities, the tourist boards, when you're working with influencers, or do you kind of work separately to attain these goals?
Most of the time, the hotels that we own, whether it's Peninsula, whether it's Raffles, we own many brands, and we operated with those brands. Hotels have different ways of dealing with it. But we've been involved with INFLOW, for example, in this case, and we have some conventions has taken place in Doha or in Switzerland, our latest resort, Birkenstock in Luzern. We find it gathering some professional people under one umbrella is working for us is better than dealing with it individually all the time.
So this is your ideal event then?
Exactly.
Excellent. And just before we move on, one thing that seems to me like a glaring obvious thing to talk about is not everybody that follows, PewDiePie or follows their favorite influencer can afford to stay at one of your hotels. So how do you select somebody that's more relevant for bottom line metrics and actual conversions?
This is a very key point. I mean, we have hotels that are averaging net room rate of 1,300 euro a night. So how do you, when somebody comes into the hotel and say, look, I have 20 million followers, but the 20 million followers, maybe the 90% doesn't have a passport.
Yeah.
So how do you define that to the beneficial to the hotel? So it's a win-win case. I think each case is its own understanding, but there is not today a software explains to you, to the hotels, this is the way the demographics works, this is their spending power, it needs analysis, and you want to make sure that you also present your hotel into the right market, what you want, which segment you want. So it's analyzed by the sales and marketing departments of each hotel, but it has a big debate because hotels get 10 requests per week, and therefore you need to pick and choose the one that is most beneficial and meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a good point. A lot of the platforms, Snapchat, Instagram, and so on, they have limited APIs for this analysis work. So whilst you can get better demographics across Twitter and so on, actually getting the demographics analysis on a third-party basis for the other platforms is much more difficult in verifying that. So it's a common challenge, and hopefully there will be some people in this room working on that challenge. Now, to flip it over to the other side of the travel industry, we've got these iconic, glamorous venues that everything's Instagrammable. But then we've got the more functional, operational side of selling people the flights and the travel side of things with Skyscanner. How do we go about creating impactful content with influencers that will engage their audience rather than just being a paid placement?
Of course. So one of the new things that we've just launched in the past year is what we call branded content within Skyscanner. So what is branded content really? We work with influencers as well as with other brands such as DMOs and airlines in order to create native content on site and also off-site. This allows us to make sure that we're serving the right content in the right context at the right time to our users. And as all the speakers have mentioned, data is a huge part of this. So what we do is we have audience segments created by the data that we have generated through Skyscanner search, along with also using data from platforms like Facebook and Twitter to find out who our right audience is and make sure that we tap into their minds at the right time.
Great, and how do you, once you've tapped into their minds at the right time, how do you convince me to go with Skyscanner instead of a competitor when it's a very price-sensitive industry you play in?
Of course. So one of the things to remember is we're a price comparison meta search. So we are a travel site that compares flights, hotels, and car hire. So we're actually partner agnostic. So we try to provide the best service to our end user. And in anything that we do, from marketing to product, we're traveler first. So In terms of that, we keep the travel at the heart of everything that we create in order to make sure that they're actually happy with the things that they see on site. So for us to be able to do that, we work in a funnel method. So we start with the dreaming and inspiration phase. We look at the users, and one of the most used functions of Skyscanner, maybe I'm actually pretty sure everyone in this room has used it at least once, is our everywhere search. So you can just tap in and see where you can go. And it will search the whole world and tell you the best prices for your flight tickets. And then from that inspiration and dreaming phase, we try to move users down into the funnel in order to, for them to start planning their trips. Within that planning phase, this is where the branded content comes in. So we try to sway their opinion from going to destination A to destination B, or choosing airline A to B, or another brand from A to B as well. And then right at the end of the funnel is the activation part. So we try to get them to book the most convenient price point, timetable, and everything like that for them as well.
Great. And so when you're looking for an influencer to work with, in the same way we're talking about for Katara, how does your ideal influencer maybe look differently from your partner influencers, like the hotels and the airlines themselves?
Sure. So we have two ways of doing this. So within Skyscanner, we work in a squadified form, which means that for every market, we have a localized squad. That means that every single one of our social media accounts are actually localized per market. This allows us to, as I said, serve the right content to the right people. And within that, our localized teams go out and have a look at, okay, who are our influencers in this market? Who can we work with? Who is the best person for us to, talk about this message that we have?
And is that process manual, or is that an automated, data-driven process?
It's a bit of both. So we have the manual process. So I'm really happy to be here and meet all of you today as well. So we go to events like these to tap into new sort of influencers, meet them, talk to them about what they do, as well as we have our own ambassador program, which you can find out through our website as well, where you can sign up and let us know what you do. And from that database, we're also able to automatically see which influencer we can work with as well.
Excellent. So yeah, there we go. We're getting
Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you very much for
Yes.
your time.
Yes, thank you to the Fab 5 marketeers here. Give us a round of applause.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for the insider info.